Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to share this incredible exploration with you today. We're looking at a totally unique cultural initiative called Virasat. And specifically, we're going to unpack how their highly immersive audiovisual programs are just completely transforming the way we connect to ancient Indian heritage. It's honestly a masterclass in how to take deep, complex historical research and present it in a way that is accessible, visual, and just profoundly moving.
Okay, let's dive into this by asking a pretty fundamental question, one that kind of challenges how we typically view historical sites. Are ancient temples just beautiful ruins? You know, when we think of antiquity, we usually picture these static, silent monuments. But the audiovisual programs created by Virasat ask us to completely rethink that assumption. They challenge us to look way past the beautiful stone and see something much, much more dynamic and alive.
To really wrap our heads around this, consider a striking contrast. Every great civilization leaves behind ruins, right? Egypt has its magnificent pyramids, and Rome has the grand columns of the Forum. They are totally breathtaking, but they're silent. The civilizations that built them are gone, and the languages their prayers were spoken in are dead. But India? India is entirely different. In India, you have temples that are over 2,000 years old where people still pray every single day. The very same deities, the same rituals, and the exact same Sanskrit mantras are chanted today just as they were millennia ago. It is a living, breathing civilization, not just some empty ruin.
But here's the catch. Despite this incredible, unbroken continuity, there is a serious problem. It's what Virasat identifies as the heritage knowledge gap. The knowledge about these sacred spaces is incredibly vast for sure, but it's highly fragmented. Every single day, critical institutional knowledge is simply evaporating as generations pass. And this cultural erosion leads directly to diluted organizational values. Perhaps most critically, there's incredible academic research being done out there, but it stays locked away in universities. It rarely reaches the youth or the general public.
It's honestly a powerful metaphor for how fragile our cultural memory actually is. Like a decaying pillar just shattering into dust, or an ancient scroll literally evaporating right into thin air. If this institutional memory isn't captured and somehow translated for modern audiences, well, it simply blows away. There is a massive, immediate urgency to preserve this, which is exactly why Virasat stepped in.
So what's the actual solution? Well, Virasat developed these highly curated audiovisual programs. These are immersive multimedia presentations purposefully designed to act as an icebreaker for the subject. Because let's be real, instead of handing someone a dense, 400-page academic textbook on Indology, these programs use dynamic visuals, soundscapes, and expert storytelling to bridge the gap between rigorous academic research and everyday people. They reconnect audiences with their living temple heritage in a way that is immediately, undeniably engaging.
Take two of their flagship offerings, for example, Mandir Ranchya Desha and Stories of India. Now, these aren't your typical dry history lectures where someone just reads facts from a podium. No way. They are captivating cultural storytelling sessions, and they're designed to scale across incredibly diverse audiences, from elementary school children learning basic values to college students seeking career inspiration, all the way to global diaspora communities trying to reconnect with their roots.
Now let's look at how they're actually reaching the younger generation. Through initiatives like Echoes of Bara and Sanskriti Se Shiksha, Virasat directly targets schools and colleges. And what's brilliant is that these programs perfectly align with India's new educational policy, or NEP 2020, which heavily promotes experiential and interdisciplinary learning. They are actively igniting young minds to look at heritage not as some dusty relic of the past, but as a viable, exciting, multidisciplinary career path.
What's really fascinating about this whole learning experience is that when students engage with these audiovisual programs, they aren't just learning about history. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a total interdisciplinary explosion. They're exploring gravity-defying architecture, the actual physics of sound and temple bells, the complex mathematics of sacred geometry, plus literature, economics, and astronomy. It totally shatters the idea that heritage has to be confined to just one single academic silo.
This whole philosophy brings us right to the core ethos of the organization, beautifully captured by a quote from the founder, Indraneel Sadanand Bankapoor. Every stone has a story. That right there is the guiding light for all these immersive experiences. The goal isn't just to tell you the dimensions of a building, but to make the walls actually speak, to show that these structures are vibrant archives of human progress just waiting to be read.
To truly understand how this works in practice, we have to talk about their absolute most popular audiovisual program, Mandi Rangia Desha, which translates to In the Land of Temples. The performance script for this program is just a masterclass in engagement. It takes the audience on a profound, meticulously paced journey across India and Southeast Asia, completely transforming their understanding step by step. Let's walk through how this narrative actually unfolds.
The program kicks off with a totally staggering number, 30,000. It doesn't actually start with temples. It starts 30,000 years ago with the Bhimbetka rock shelters in central India. The audience is immersed in these stunning views of humanity's very first galleries. The narrative explains that the human impulse to mark a sacred space, to create art on a stone wall, it didn't start with kings or scriptures. It started with human hands pressing against rock 30 millennia ago.
Then, the journey fast-forwards and brings the audience right home to Maharashtra, to the Mahalakshmi Temple in Kolhapur, anchored by the number 1500. Through breathtaking aerial and night photography, the audience learns that this specific temple has been a site of continuous worship for at least 1,500 years. It really reinforces that concept of the unbroken, living civilization we were talking about earlier.
So, the really crucial point here is how the presentation beautifully merges science with spirituality. It introduces this amazing phenomenon called Kiranotsava. Through stunning interior shots, the audience sees how twice a year the sun's rays perfectly enter the sanctum to physically touch the deity's feet. The presentation explains that architects over 1,500 years ago perfectly calculated these equinox alignments. It demonstrates that these temples were incredible hubs of advanced astronomy and mathematics.
But, the audio-visual presentation also makes sure to highlight the relatable, really human side of these grand structures. It brings up the Panchatantra, ancient animal fables like the monkey and the crocodile or the geese and the tortoise. These were literally carved right into the temple walls to provide moral instruction for the everyday visitor. It proves that the temple was a complete environment, speaking just as clearly to a playing child or a local farmer as it did to a high scholar.
Which basically brings us to the ultimate goal of these audiovisual programs. They aren't just about showing pretty pictures, right? They are about fundamentally changing how you interact with the world. The presentation leaves the audience with this incredibly powerful question. The next time you walk past a temple wall, what will you hear? It challenges us all to stop seeing these spaces as static, silent ruins, and instead view them as vibrant, living repositories of science, art, and philosophy, just waiting for us to stop and listen.